Altered item number 19, the Swan boat. With the exception of the containment procedures, all other documentation related to AI-19 has not been recovered. Without any additional material, this report will have several holes. If anything new is brought back for examination, a supplement will be provided. The item is a fiberglass pedal boat shaped like a swan and was discovered at a lake on Vancouver Island. The name of the lake and the rental service it was obtained through are both redacted. It is recommended to determine the name and history of this rental service to determine any potential links to other events. Despite the vagueness of the item effects section, we know that, quote, the item emits a pulse of physical force, end quote. The exact measurement for this force is unknown, as human resources has prevented experimentation for safety concerns. The physical force appears to push any passengers out of the boat, seemingly at random. This was experienced by various passengers during the early summer of 1983. The report writer draws a connection to the controlled ability given by OOP-5, the floppy disk. Instead of throwing items in a specific direction, however, AI-19 throws things away from it. After media attention of the occurrences spread, Bureau staff were dispatched to contain the item. Interjection. With little to no details, this appears to be a case of spontaneous alteration. However, due to the time frame when this item first began to act up, there is a very loose link to the start of summer and the rise of the sun. In ancient Celtic cultures, the swan was associated with the sun and even said to pull the chariot of the sun god. However, this is likely an over-analysis and not relevant to the item itself. Coincidence is still a thing. Finding connections in things that either don't exist or have no meaning is a characteristic of the human condition. As such, this observation should be taken as anecdotal and not fully relevant. The Swan boat was attained on June 24, 1983. Being a full 3 years after AI-14 was discovered, a specialized agent was deployed to try and pacify the object with verbal formulas. Quote, the item was transported to the Bureau by helicopter. A containment specialist accompanied it, sent to recite formulas C.9 through 32 recursively. End quote. Since 1980, it appears that the use of formulas has become a part of standard Bureau protocol. However, there are still some kinks that need ironing out. On the helicopter, this individual was, for lack of a better phrase, chanting this formula over and over throughout the trip in order to prevent the item from acting up. Considering its ability to push out a concussive force, doing so inside a flying object could lead to disastrous results, which is exactly what happened. Quote, what occurred in the helicopter is not known, but all agents were lost in the crash. End quote. Supposition. Helicopters are not required by the FAA to contain black boxes, which is likely why no details about the cause of the crash were known. On top of this, I doubt the Bureau would allow them regardless. All we need is an incident like this and a random local agency recovering it, learning secrets they have no business knowing. Hypothesis 1. The agent reciting the formula ceased his recitation for a brief period of time, which gave a window for the item to act up. This can be attributed to things like being distracted, falling asleep, a coughing fit, etc. The possibility of sabotage cannot be discounted, but is unlikely. Considering the distance between Vancouver Island near the west coast and New York City on the east coast, the containment specialist likely lost concentration at some point for some reason during the long trip. Hypothesis 2. It is entirely possible the formula was not 100% effective. Dr. Ash did mention there was only an 82% success rate. When this report was written is not known, so the number of formulas developed at this point may be less than when he wrote the report, which means the success rate may have been lower during this mission. Experiment proposal. Create audio recordings of the formulas and test them on items ranked low in terms of danger classification. If they work just as well from a recording as they do from a live person speaking them, then the possibility of accidental loss of concentration on behalf of the containment specialist would no longer be a concern for future retrieval missions. If it does not work, then it is recommended to have multiple individuals reciting the formula in shifts to avoid situations like this in the future. The more reliable the tools, the lower the risk of injury or death on behalf of our agents. After recovering the item from the wreckage, it was transported by train to the oldest house. It is currently housed in the Panopticon and has no recorded incidents of acting up. This concludes my report for AI-19, the Swan boat.